Welcome back, dear listeners, to another powerful episode of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. I'm your host, Avik, and today we are diving into a story that is not just about food, but also about the focus, resilience, and the power of self discovery. Our guest today is someone who has literally walked across America, holds multiple patents, built a consulting firm, trusted by some of the biggest names in the food and beverage world, and is also producing an Emmy level documentary on flavor itself. Yeah. But beyond all of those professional accomplishments lies a deeply human journey. Yeah. So recently diagnosed with adult ADHD, so Dr. Bryan has transformed what many consider a limitation into a catalyst for building new systems, new ways of being, and ultimately a consulting company that thrives at the intersection of science, creativity, and adaptability. So, dear listeners, I'll not take much of your time. Brian, it's really a privilege to have you here today. Welcome to the show again.
Thank you, Vic. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Amazing. So, uh, Brian, let's start with your ADHD diagnosis. I mean, for many
Yeah.
adults, getting that kind of news can feel like both a, I'd say, relief and a reckoning as well. So, how did learning about your ADHD shift your perspective on yourself and also your work and the systems you were building?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for a long time, I felt like I was broken, right? Like I wasn't able to do things normally. And I didn't, you know, as a student, I was I did not like authority.
Mm,
I did not pay attention very well. I think people were wondering why I couldn't focus. But luckily, I did well in school. I just had to build my own systems to get there. And that continued on into college. But I think, you know,
yeah.
yeah, once I got through like certain level, at some
Yeah.
point, I definitely struggled. And I fell into a really deep depression, sometimes in my early 20s. And it became obvious to me that there was something wrong, but I never quite understood what it was. So, fast forward into my 30s, early 30s, I actually my ex-wife, she gave me questionnaire to take. She didn't tell me what it was. She's like, just take this. And I scored really high. I was like really proud, you know? I was like, yeah, I got fours and fives on all these questions. It turns out that the questionnaire was about having ADHD. So, I this it became very obvious to me, once I learned a little bit more about the symptoms of ADHD, especially for those who don't have a sort of external version of it. Like I don't present as someone as it with ADHD. It's more internal. It became really clear why I developed the systems that I did, and so I just realized like maybe this is probably just the way I'm going to be, and I might as well maximize it.
Exactly. Exactly. So, what was the very first system or maybe practice that you put in place after your diagnosis that made a kind of noticeable difference?
Yeah, I gave myself permission to work whenever I felt like it. And that has been a game changer because for a long time I thought, well, why can't I work? Why do I struggle to work in like a predefined schedule? Or why can't I just do the same thing over and over again? And there was a lot of these why can't I, or why shouldn't I, or why should I? And it turned, and at some point I was just like, I just gonna go with where my energy is at. And it has been a game changer. I my productivity has skyrocketed because I just work when I feel like working. And, it doesn't work for everyone. Obviously, I run a company, so that gives me a lot of flexibility. I have no one to answer to, which is perfect for my personality because I question people a lot. But yeah, I just you know, in theory I work 7 days a week, but
Mm.
I take the time I need to decompress, to relax, to just listen to music or meditate. And that's way better. And then sometimes I work and through the middle of the night because I have the energy to do it. And sometimes I just sleep in. And, by following the sort of ebb and flow, um, insane amount of stuff gets done. Like I had an intuition that that's how I work,
Mm.
but
Yeah,
because we live in our societies are built around schedules. People don't really acknowledge that.
agree. I totally agree on this. And like I'm getting curious, Laura. So, uh, I love how you reframed it as a power source instead of kind of setback. I think so many listeners can resonate with that. Sometimes the labels that scare us are sometimes actually the keys to unlocking the new ways of living in spirit. So,
Mhm.
mm,
Mhm.
yeah.
Oh,
So, do you
exactly.
agree with that? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think I had to let go of a lot of things that really scared me. Like one of them was actually my marriage, because I realized I had to live a very different life, from what I think my ex-wife was wanted. She wanted very regimented, very scheduled,
Mm.
like very, very like keep work in a very specific time. And it just doesn't and it didn't work for me while we were married, and it definitely doesn't work for me now that I realize how important it is for me to follow. And with that, I think I've definitely let go a lot of relationships, and friends that don't fully understand. First of all, they don't fully understand entrepreneurship, right? Which I think is its own like reality, but simultaneously, like the kind of entrepreneurship that I do is very it's very in the moment. It's very much like the opportunity arises, and it's a lot of intuition, right? Like I have to call on a lot of all the lessons I learned through my life. Um, and a lot of people can't really keep up with that, for better or worse. So it's hard to keep track of me, right? Like I'm always
Yeah.
I'm always doing something, and it's all fantastical and really amazing. I really love my life right now, honestly.
Amazing. Wow. So, you were running Mendocino Food Consulting. So,
Hmm.
uh, working with the startups, established brands, and everything in between, right? So, ADHD often comes with the kind of high energy, high distractions.
Hmm.
Um, so, how do you balance those traits? Like when leading a consulting company where precision and science are so critical.
Yeah, I realized that one of the interesting aspects of that sort of distractibility is I used to think of that as a negative, like, when you're going to school or, if you're working at a company, people don't like when you're distracted. But it turns out when you just follow the high energy and like the thing that really interests you, um, you know, maybe 80% of the time, like, that actually leads to better outcomes, and every so often there's 20% that, like, "You know what? This didn't fit, the energy didn't work,
Mm.
I'm not interested anymore," and I cut loose, and it's really remarkable how much better that works than to, like, kinda drive yourself to complete something that's, like, an awful, awful situation, like, things suck your energy, right? And so I've discovered that if I just followed that distractibility, there's actually a really wonderful positive outcome. It's just that I've had to learn to have very strict boundaries and even just be really, I'm not actually a rude person. Um, or maybe I don't perceive that. There's probably situations where I am, but I
Yeah.
I've learned to be a lot more forceful about my needs as the founder and say, you know what, you're a client, but like I'm okay with saying goodbye or even giving you a refund and moving on because like my energy is not here. Like I have something more interesting to focus on.
No, I totally agree. Yeah. So, have there been moments where your ADHD actually became an advantage and spotting the opportunities or creative solutions uh, which other might have missed?
Mm, mm. Yeah, I'm actually going through that right now, which is, you know, I found that my ADHD goes through cycles where I find really high intensity interest in something, and then I have to let it go, and it takes time for and I always have to do like a weird circuit to get back to the original thought, but I've come back to that thought, and it's in that time period, the last couple months, I found a solution. So it's almost like my brain had to like solve the problem over that period of time in the background before I could solve it. And so now I'm in a perfect position to actually take advantage of the opportunity, but I couldn't have done that like several months ago. So the sort of ebb and flow of the thinking and I'm not doing that right now, or I'm not interested, or I'm gonna go listen to music, or I'm gonna go to a party, right? Like it's like these are not problems. Like it's so fascinating because again, like I used to think like why can't I just get things done? Like why can't but now I'm like, oh, like that technical problem, I can patent that, I can license it, but I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to do it. Before I was not ready to do it. So it's almost like like something is listening in the background and understands there's like a bigger picture, a bigger intelligence. That's not just about me not being able to focus. So it's really interesting.
Exactly. So, I mean, you have been open about hitting rock bottom in your early 20s. So, dropping out of Stanford during a very dark time. So,
Mhm.
but yet, uh, here you are today, like with a thriving company, a book, a documentary,
Yes.
a global recognition. So, what did that rock bottom moment teach you that still guides your resilience today?
Yeah, I think there was definitely a moment, where I couldn't take it. Like I really didn't want to live. Um And I had to really sit with that, with all that pain and go, but what if I take everything that I've ever learned and know about life, and trust the intuition, right? Like I think that was the biggest spark with that changed everything was like, all right, like let's start over in terms of like how I think and not make any assumptions about how the world works. We're not going to take all these things that people teach us, that school teaches us, that your parents teach you and say, "You know what? I'm just going to take it blank because I have nothing else. I have nothing to lose. I'm done. Like I've completely given up. And so, I might as well give it a shot." So, when I started just it was very slow in the beginning, but I definitely started making very outrageous goals for myself, or at least at the time I thought were outrageous. But I told myself, you know what? I want to try. I want to give it a shot. And I'm gonna believe 100% that I can do this, no matter what happens, no matter how much pain I'm in. Because again, just give it a shot. Because I've already experienced the worst of it. So there's no failure. That was the interesting thing is now I completely gave up on the idea of failing because I've already failed the most I could possibly experience. And so everything else was just for fun, right? It was just a game for me. And so as I kept again, it was very slow process, But, like, I started to see, like, year after year, like, as long as I concentrated and I started filling out this list of goals I wanted to achieve, and I kept reading it to myself. And it was something I used to do, but I forgot that that was, like, a little power that I had, but I was, like, basically reprogramming myself. And
Exactly.
yeah, and eventually year 2, year 3 into it, I started hitting these goals, and I was like, "Huh, that's really interesting." And then it started accelerating, and, like, by this year, I every time I just ask for a certain goal to be accomplished, it's almost just happens. Like, I meet the right person at the right time in the most ridiculous scenario, that is almost impossible, um, and is like the perfect meeting time. It's like exactly when I need it. And, I think that just came out of this wholesale trust and belief that the universe would just guide me where it needed to go. Because I was like, I can't trust myself. But when I trusted just me by my small self, the I didn't end up in a good place. Like that was bad. That was not I was too much asking for things that were selfish. I realized. That was me missing the mark, was I was asking for things only for myself. And I started saying, you know what, if I can do this and I can do it for other people and it can be, I'm successful, but I'm successful because my hope is that it will be for the benefit of others. And I think that was the change that happened when I gave up in that moment.
Exactly. Mm. So, wow. And you have also spoken like movingly about losing your mother and the rituals you created to honor her, like the altar and Burning Man. So, how has grief shaped your approach to work, to focus, and how you want to show up in the world?
I think I realized that the moments where when the pain is the most is exactly where I need to put my attention. And as I've learned over the last couple of months, in the last year, me going into that opening and sitting deeply with the hurt of and actually finding the beauty, in loss, right? Like that, my mother experienced all the things that she could have experienced that she would have wanted in her life. Like she actually achieved all of her goals, despite, having died at a younger age than we all expected. But she had so much to share and so much to give, especially towards the last couple of years of her life. And I realized how much she meant to me. And I think that was probably the biggest takeaway was, in death, you realize what a person means to you. And from that has been just this ever enhanced resolve to say, you know what? I'm here to accomplish everything I've asked for, right? Like is no matter what life throws at me, like I have one, as far as we know, right? Like, we all have our different belief systems, but I think, at this, juncture of existence, I have this version of Brian that exists. And I'm going to take it all away. I'm going to go 100%. Because, that's what my parents would have wanted for me, right? Like, is to honor them, and honor myself and in a way accomplish their goals too. A lot of the things that they didn't get to fulfill, when they were alive. And so there's momentum. There's like, a quest of sorts. This is my journey. This is my mythology, that has been passed on to me because of the lives that my parents lived and gave for me to be born.
Okay. Oh. And like, do you feel like creating those rituals gave you a way to carry her wisdom into the systems that you are building today.
Yeah, absolutely. Even in the mornings, I'll think of my mom, or I have a little shrine for her. Um, and it just these are just things that remind me every day, because like, you get busy. There's like 10,000 things to do, but to bring some centering into your life and remind yourself, like, yes, it is hard, but this is why I'm doing it. Or there's wisdom to ask. I can always, call upon, the part of me that remembers all the lessons that my mom taught me while she was alive, and use that in the business, because she was an entrepreneur. I mean, of all the people of my life, she was the you know the best inspiration for someone that took opportunities left and right, like in situations that you wouldn't even believe. She made an amazing life for herself, financially, in terms of prosperity, finding plots of land and real estate that no one would have ever thought. No one in 100 years would have thought had any worth. And it's just, for her, she was always trusting the universe herself. Like, I think that was another takeaway, is that she was always, honoring the fact that, there was intelligence or wisdom much higher than herself. And she would follow that. And by doing so, she was rewarded. So it's another lesson for me.
Exactly. It's amazing. Amazing. I mean, it's incredibly moving, Brian. I mean, it reminds us that systems we build in life are not just about efficiency, but they are also about carrying the love and the lessons of those we have lost.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, for all the listeners, I'd love to say, like, if today's conversation sparked something in you, whether it's about reframing your own challenges, exploring the science of uh, food, and simply creating rituals to honor your loved ones, take that spark and build up, because uh, growth is not about the perfection, but it's all about the integration.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah. So, Brian, like, if someone wants to connect with you, what will be the great medium to connect?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me at my website at mendocinofoodconsulting.com. Or you can look up my name, Bryan Quoc. It's a pretty unique name. So I am I've yet to find someone else that comes up when you type my name in. So usually my websites come up. But yeah, I mean, and any of my socials, same name. It's pretty easy.
Amazing. So, dear listeners, what I'll do is I'll put all the links into the show notes for your easy reference. And with this hope, until next time, this is your host, Avik, signing off from Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. Until next time, keep nourishing both your mind and your body. And remember that you can design systems that let you thrive. So, thank you so much.
Thank you, Avik. Thank you for the opportunity.